The bounty hunters. The missing clones were located, in a sense. Two of them, 4 and 11, were in police custody after being caught in a public panic. Apparently neither of them knew what to do when the orders from Iva stopped. 10 and 7 are in defensive bolt holes they each made, and neither one can be coaxed out. His clones work, so it's his problem. Captain Schmidt is speaking with the governors of the planet about disseminating the information as thoroughly as possible and trying to brainstorm a way to properly divulge the information without the cloning facilities, which make up for nearly 20% of the planet's food production, being torn to pieces. But that's not what Ivan has to focus on, so he pushes that out of his mind. The station where 4 and 11 come into sight and 1 and 2 both have their heads on swivels. They've never seen anything but the mining station and the lives they had there. Open sky that's something other than a vacuum kept at bay by transparent force fields is new to them. Buildings rising from the ground rather than burrowing in. Wow, what does it take to feed so many people? 2 asks. For the sake of identification, they were dressing the clones differently before the full retrovirus suite was given to them. 2 in particular has a poofy green dress with an apron over top. 1, on the other hand, is trying to be a grown-up and wearing a business suit. 1 wasn't handling the changes as well as 2. She had dedicated herself entirely into caring for his egg, and when he escaped it, he literally shattered her reason for everything. Learning that the task you had dedicated your life to was a sham wouldn't sit well with a mentally sound adult, let alone an abused child. So Ivan was keeping her close at all times, and wherever 1 went, 2 followed. He lowers the small shuttle into a parking place and stands up from the pilot's seat. All right, time to see how well 4 and 11 are doing. They follow him out, 1 reaching out to hold onto his tail before stopping herself a few times. Then he stops to sweep his tail for her to grasp onto. It's okay. It's not. I mean, 1 begins and he turns around entirely to pick her up. A major advantage of his new size and strength, he can easily carry her. It's okay. You're okay, he assures her, and she hugs him close. I don't know what to do. You have time to figure it out. Now let's get your sisters out of here so they can start figuring out what they want too, he assures her. I wonder what they like to eat, 2 asks, her little boots clomping along in her strange mix of casual and practical. 2 had decided to dive full into her skills as a cook and nutritionist, and it was keeping her mind occupied if nothing else. That's a fair question. Why don't we ask them? Ivan offers as he walks up to the station. He resists snorting in amusement as 2 grabs onto his tail as he walks up the stairs. She uses him to help her up the stairs. Should I be thankful you don't have a hoverboard to sit on? His question startles her and she lets go and begins to fall back a little. Thankfully, his skill with Axiom means that falling and gravity are a matter of opinion in his presence. She falls safely upwards until she grabs onto his back. Better? Can we do that again? Maybe later. Right now, we have to help your sisters. Are you going to carry them too? 2 asks. Maybe. I still have my tail and a free arm. Ivan replies with a bit of a grin. Girl troubles? Is the first thing the receptionist asks as he enters the station. The impudent smile and look of relief lets Ivan know that this is probably the first time in a long while the officer at the desk has had cause to smile. Something like that. Some cloning shenanigans has found me with 12 identical granddaughters, and apparently 2 are here in protective custody. These 2 with me are some of the clingier ones, Ivan explains. Wait, you're associated with them? The officer asks. Ivan nods as he walks up. The name tag on the woman says Sergeant Sirius. What a name. Yes, officer. He says, using the Axiom to pull out his communicator and turn it to her. I'm not only associated with them, but the paperwork is going through to have me as a fully employed asset to the Undaunted. It's still hard to believe that an army out of a holodrama came crawling out of cruel space and set itself up to being heroes. Imagine it from my angle. They save my life and then turn around with a job offer when they realize I'm useful, Ivan says, and Officer Sirius gets a boggle-eyed expression for a moment before considering. There's supposed to be press release later today. Do you know what it's about? She asks. Yes. The fact that you can say Vesud smart without fear of reprisal now is part of it. There are several people to thank for that Edith plumage, among them also whoever called in Frost, Ivan remarks. Calling the Hollow by her abandoned name made him feel a touch safer, as if she were more a person and not a force of absolute destruction that had simply appeared, utterly destroyed Iva, and then got away with barely more than a few superficial wounds. Frost? Officer Sirius asks, predictably. Clarissa Frost. She summoned the Hollow some 800 years ago and is one of them now. Someone here on Albrith called her forth from whatever dark hell they're from, and she took out the woman responsible for everything. Ivan says, pointedly refusing to admit that the woman in question was his own clone daughter. But that's enough grim talk. I've got 2 little girls to get home to safety, and I need to get started on the honored tradition of spoiling my grandchildren rotten. The good officer giggles a bit and quickly checks the data pad for a second time before nodding and handing it back into his axiom grip. As he follows her into the station, he has it slip into his pocket. What do you mean by spoiling us? Tu asks. It means that you're going to be getting a lot of good things coming your way, so many that you'll learn to expect them at every turn, Ivan says, and he gets an odd look from Officer Sirius. Why do you have to explain such a thing to her? Part of the press release will include an information docket on all relevant peoples in this mess. I'm in it, as are my 12 granddaughters, Ivan explains. And your daughter? Officer Sirius asks. A full reveal on what she did to the best of our knowledge, Ivan says, and the officer's eyebrows rise. What does her mother? Eva was a clone. Something went wrong, horribly, horribly wrong, Ivan says, and he holds back the pain, the feeling of failure and shame. One picks up on it and squeezes against him as tightly as she can. Tu slips off his back and hugs him around the waist. I'm okay. I'm okay, girls. What did she do to you? Officer Sirius asks in a horrified tone. It will be in the press release. Please let me get to 4 and 11. They need me, Ivan says, and the officer nods. It's just a short way away at this point, and the doorway opens. 2 tiny cobes are chatting to each other while sitting on a table and a crumb-covered plate between them. Whatever was there has been fully demolished. Hello, I'm 2. Prime is carrying 1. 2 introduces herself with a big wave. I told you 2. My name is Ivan Grace. He corrects her, silently thankful that her friendly personality was shining through and breaking the ice. What? What's going on? Ivan? Where's Iva? 4 and 11 speak quickly, and Ivan holds up a hand with a smile. Iva is gone. In truth, she was 0, first clone of the line. She went rogue and attacked me, then created the rest of you to help her do things without really knowing what for. Do you understand so far? Ivan asks. You do realize that I'm still here and legally recording this, correct? Officer Sirius asks. Perfectly, Ivan says, sparing her only a single glance. He turns back to the girls who are staring at him. Then the one on the right, his right, raises her hand. Yes? Does this mean we're in trouble? She asks. No, it means that I'm going to be taking you to live with your sisters and taking care of you. It also means we're going to help you, Ivan says. So, I don't have to go back to my computer station? Hacking can be interesting sometimes, but when you're looking over a whole planet, it can get really boring. The one on the left asks. Of course, in fact, if you tell me where it is, I can send a friend to go wreck it so you never have to see it again. Ivan promises. The fact that they're also going to be ripping out the hard drive and any components that catch their interest goes unsaid. There is a police officer in the room after all. Does that mean I have to stop fixing things? I like fixing things, the other clone asks. No, you don't have to stop doing what you like. In fact, if you want to fix things, then there's always a dozen or so things lying around that need fixing, Ivan says. He's not actually sure on that one, but if it keeps her happy, he'll personally trash things around the chain breaker to give her something to fix. You two are taking this very well, Officer Sirius notes calmly. I would have many, many more questions in your positions. I spoke to 11. I talked with 4. They both say at once, and Ivan nods as he finally places 4 on his left and 11 on his right. So 4 is a hacker and 11 a mechanic? Interesting. 0 kept most of the girls ignorant of each other or what they were really doing. Also, she made sure they were smart, so by realizing the other clones are around it means that they've been lied to once. Of course, this also means they've been lied to more than once, and not the little white lies you do to avoid hurting someone's feelings or the like, Ivan says, before a bit of pride leaks into his voice. Regardless of the circumstances around them, my little grand clones are far from stupid. I see. Well, thankfully your files and documentation are in order. Otherwise you wouldn't be walking out with these little girls. Oh? Why is that? We've gotten rather defensive around children, especially seeing as how so many of them died due to words getting people killed. Officer Sirius says in the tone of someone who's seen way too much in the category of child mortality. Oh, yes, that is a very good reason, Ivan admits. A child has no concept of death, consequences, or mortality. The idea that saying some words is a very bad idea is pretty much guaranteed to have children trying to figure it out in order to say it themselves and beat the system. Everything he learned of Eva just horrified further and further. How had such horror come from a clone of him? What dark aspect of his soul had spawned such evil? Could it come back out? Could it? He lets out a huge lungful of air as he pushes down the thoughts. What ifs and maybes won't bring someone back from the dead, won't turn back the clock and prevent catastrophe. He is capable of causing enormous damage if he stops caring about collateral and pushes the limits of his knowledge and skill. That just makes him the same as literally any thinking person in the galaxy. The only strange thing about this situation is that the darker and more depraved depths of knowledge were put to use. Right, well, let's get everyone here up to the ship, and then we can get started on getting 7 and 10 out of their little hidey holes and with their sisters, Ivan says. Can we do that now? I want to meet them, 11 asks, and he looks to 4 who nods. 2 is beaming up at him, and 1 lets out a little noise of affirmation. Okay. Apparently we're going for a clean sweep. Excuse me, officer, I've got a bit of a delayed family reunion to get to. Certainly. Just read this file and put your finger in the DNA scanner, please. Officer Sirius says, handing him a data pad that he reads through 3 times to ensure that nothing stupid is inside it. It's just a standard release form, though. He's taking the girls into his custody and is responsible for their safety, health, and mental well-being within reason. Perfectly reasonable. The scan of his DNA gives some odd results, and he sighs. I had to biomod myself not too long ago. It's confusing the sensor. I'm also in the process of altering my documentation after my identity was stolen. Officer Sirius blinks at the explanation and taps a few bits on the datapad. I see. A moment, please. The change in the file when she hands it back is simple and reasonable. Basically, a threat of being taken to court for perjury and fraud if the documentation fails to be updated within 5 galactic standard years. Very basic. And seeing as how the changes were already being processed and were not expected to take more than a month at the extreme outside, he was fine putting his DNA print on that. Thank you, Mr. Grace. And good luck with the documentation. Getting things updated after a biomod is a pain. Getting your identity stolen and a biomod, that's a huge problem. It's already in the process. My new employer has a great number of legal professionals on retainer. With a team on my side, it was child's play. That's good to hear. Indeed, now if you'll excuse me, I have 2 more wayward grandchildren to gather up.